DVD Tales. Hello and welcome to this week's video. I thought I'd follow up the video I did a few weeks ago this week, the VHS Tales, where I started telling the tale of my physical media collection. Now I got up to about 2000 when basically I bought a DVD player, and that was pretty much the end for VHS. Certainly once everything I wanted that I had on VHS was released on DVD, that was pretty much the end. The only VHS tapes I still have now are basically a few really old Doctor Who vids, just like from the 80s, the ones I got for like Christmas and that when I was a kid, and tapes of the 1990-91 Neighbours repeats, which I, even though I've DVDized them and digitized them, I still can't quite bring myself to get rid of the VHSs. That's about it. So on with the DVD story. Now, it was the release of Doctor Who on DVD, starting with the Five Doctors special edition, that convinced me that DVD was a good idea, and it was time to get on board with it. But it wasn't actually a Doctor Who DVD that was the first DVD I ever bought. The first DVD I ever bought was actually season 1 of Blackadder. It was the Blackadder. That was the very first DVD I ever bought. Now, I'm sure it probably wasn't too long after that I got the Five Doctors special edition. And I started collecting Doctor Who on DVD, obviously. I mean, the DVD range was fairly sporadic at first and then kind of speeded up after a few years. And we got more and more of them until it finally finished in about 2013. Until it came back again in 2016, of course. Aside from Doctor Who, I started buying DVDs, box sets of the shows that I'd watched in the 90s and early 2000s, of course. And up till that point, I'd been taping them off air, and stuff like Buffy and the X-Files and Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5. Now, I'd bought at least the first 4 seasons, I think, of Buffy on VHS, and then about 6 months after that they started releasing the DVD box sets, so I was like, oh well, guess I'm not buying VHSs anymore. That was a bit of a waste of money. The X-Files, I think there were a few releases of like 2-parters joined together on VHS. I never bothered buying them because it just seemed pointless. I stuck with my off-air copies of all the seasons. Of course, in the early 2000s, they started releasing the X-Files properly on DVD box sets, and I immediately picked all them up. And of course, the moment something was released like that, the old off-air tapes were retired. And I basically bought so much stuff on DVD box sets in the 2000s. Everything from DS9, B5, X-Files, Buffy, Angel, Seinfeld. Loads of stuff. I mean, and loads of stuff was coming out that had never even gotten a proper VHS release, like Dr. the Donkey and stuff like that. I think maybe they'd done a best of that on VHS, which I never bought. But they actually started releasing the whole thing properly on DVD, and I got all of them. Now, in terms of movies, obviously I started buying... I hadn't really bothered much with the movie collection on VHS, mainly because my brother was the movie collector guy, and it seemed kind of pointless. I couldn't really compete with that or afford that. He buggered off in 2000. He moved out and left me with no fucking movies hardly. So at the same point basically that I got a DVD player, so it was a natural thing to start buying movies on DVD. Now, at that point, the movies that I was buying mostly on DVD were like the new ones or the relatively recent ones, like 90s movies, late 90s movies, like the Scream movies and Urban Legend and Can't Hardly Wait and all that sort of thing. I did buy a few of the iconic 80s movies, the ones that were kind of iconic from my childhood, like Ghostbusters and Gremlins and the Terminator and all that sort of thing. But predominantly at that point, it was the like late 90s movies that I was buying on DVD. And that pretty much kept going. I mean, I'm not sure when Blu-ray started. I resisted it for a very long time. Basically, I resisted it up until 2014, because that was when my TV died. because I'd basically had that TV. That it was just an old-fashioned TV. I'd had that since 1996. I bought that in '96, and that TV I had it repaired a couple of times, but not since like the early 2000s. And that TV basically lasted me nearly 18 years up until early 2014 when it died, and there wasn't even anybody left to repair it. Basically, nobody even knew how to repair those old TVs by that point. So I was like, oh well, I guess I'm having to upgrade to a widescreen HD TV, and I bought myself a 39.5 inch HD TV, which I still have. Well, it's not a smart TV. I think they were just starting to come in, but they were a lot more expensive, and I'm like, screw that. So it's a HD widescreen TV, but it's not a smart TV. That'll have to wait till this one cops out. And at that point, it started to become obvious that some of the old DVDs didn't look very good on it. Not all of them. I mean, some of them still look fine. Many of the TV show ones still look fine. But from that point, a lot of the DVDs, especially like the first DVDs that I'd bought in the 2000s, they were starting to look a bit rough, and it's like, yeah, okay, I guess I'm getting into Blu-ray. But DVD, of course, there were so many things that came out on DVD, including some things that I didn't even have on VHS. I mean, The Little Vampire, for one thing. I had not seen that show since it was first broadcast in the UK in 1986. I had nothing off-air copies. It was never on video. Basically, I'd almost come to the conclusion it didn't exist if it wasn't for the fact that I had like a novel, the first book in the series, which had a picture of some of the cast on it. That was basically the only evidence I have that show even existed. And late 2000s, I think somebody put it on YouTube, and I'm like, where do you get this from? And they were like, there's a DVD release, but in Germany. And I managed to get it. I had to navigate a German language website because I couldn't find it on eBay at all. I had to navigate a German language DVD website in order to buy the thing, and it cost me like $100, including postage and packaging, to get the thing. But I'm like, this is like a childhood iconic favorite of mine, and I've not seen it for like 23 years or something. I want it, and I'm getting it. And I still don't think it's got a Western release. I've looked on eBay recently. You can still get the German one, but I still don't think it's been released in the West, which is freaking bizarre. Fortunately, it had both German and the original English audio options, so you can watch it properly. But yeah, DVD definitely changed everything, both in terms of movies for me and in terms of the way that TV was released, of course. And that really meant that I could ditch all of those off-air copies and stuff like that. Of course, not everything was released. Not everything's still being released. I mean, all they've released of Neighbours is like the first season and part of the second season. And there were some best-ofs that I never bothered with because I really don't see the point of that. They still haven't released like the 1990 and 91 season, which, the ones that I really want, or the 2004 season, which I managed to get off the internet last year. So DVD still hasn't given us everything. I mean, it's difficult with soap operas, of course. I get that, especially a soap opera like that's been running for 30 years. I mean, Jesus. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe they could make them available as like legal downloads or something. But at the moment, I pretty much have to stick with off-air copies for that. And of course, even today with like Blu-rays, not everything gets Blu-ray releases. Not all TV shows, not all modern TV shows get Blu-ray releases. I don't think Elementary's gotten a Blu-ray release. That's all DVD. Pretty Little Liars, that's all DVD. I'm not sure about Dexter. All the ones I've got are still DVD. Person of Interest did get a Blu-ray release. I've only got a couple of those on DVD. I mean, on Blu-ray. I think I had the last 2 seasons on Blu-ray. And of course, when you're talking like from some obscure stuff like Wicked Science, that's only on DVD. I'd love that. I'd love a Blu-ray release. I mean, I'd love a proper Western release, but we haven't got one. We just all we've got is the Spanish DVDs, which I picked up last year, and I'm very happy with. I'd love to see it get a Blu-ray release, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, especially when they can't even be bothered to release it properly in Australia. So DVD doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon, even with Blu-ray, which like the hardcore collectors favor, and I mean I favor it too, because you do get better picture quality, and that gets more and more important with the bigger our TVs get and HD and all that. And I mean, I watch. This is what I don't see me getting a 4K TV. I mean, when my TV does go, and I have to get a new one, I don't see me getting a 4K one, because I watch a lot of old TV, and I watch a lot of old DVDs of old TV, and they, a lot of them, like 60s, 70s stuff like Callan, they look rough enough as it is on like a 40-inch HD TV. I can only imagine how shit they'd look on like a 4K TV or a 60-inch or something like that. So I don't see me doing that anytime soon. And even with streaming and all the rest of it, DVD remains very popular. And quite rightly. I mean, screw streaming. I don't mind Blu-ray, and I will certainly upgrade anything that I like, providing it gets, a decent transfer. I will upgrade. I mean, I'm upgrading the classic Doctor Who's. I'll try and upgrade anything that's important to me if the option is available. I'm not buying into this buying stuff on streaming crap, because you don't own it. They can literally take it away if the site that you buy it from loses the rights to it. Oh well, this thing that you've supposedly bought suddenly disappears from your collection. Yes, screw that. I'm sorry, I'm not buying into that nonsense. I buy it, I want it in my house where nobody can touch it. So yeah, DVD looks like the format that's going to be staying around. I mean, I love Blu-ray. I have many movies on Blu-ray. I may even talk about Blu-ray separately in another video, and I will always upgrade stuff like Doctor Who if it's worth upgrading. But I do not see DVD going the way of VHS anytime soon. And I don't see me getting rid of my DVD collection anytime soon.